Iowa's News Now Sports has your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks, sponsored by University of Iowa Healthcare.
There's no ceiling on how good we can get, and I think we understand that. So each time we come out in the practice field, we're going to continue to harp on our fundamentals and just, continuing to get better.
Welcome to the Week 8 edition of Eye on the Hawks, presented by University of Iowa Healthcare. We thought it fitting to open the show hearing from one offensive lineman, Logan Jones, as we introduce a former offensive lineman, Austin Blythe, former Hawkeye, former NFL road grader Austin. Pleasure having you join us today.
Thanks for having me.
Coming on over from Williamsburg. That was one of your proteges that we got a chance to hear from in Logan Jones. First, I want to get some of your initial thoughts on what you've seen out of this offensive line this year.
What I have liked is them getting out in space, getting on guys, and especially the last 2 weeks, the ground game has been seemingly much improved, and I think that's a real testament to what Logan said. We heard him say just now is that they've really been focusing on their fundamentals and getting on guys and finishing the job, and it's really paid off the last couple weeks.
It's hard to believe coming up on 3 weeks since quarterback Cade McNamara went down with a season-ending knee injury. This Hawkeye team is sitting in the catbird seat atop the Big Ten West. Saturday's win over Wisconsin puts Iowa firmly in the driver's seat for a trip to Indy. And the remaining schedule, not exactly a Big Ten murderer's row. The Hawkeyes will almost certainly be favored in all 5 games left on the schedule, starting with Minnesota this weekend and ending on Black Friday at Nebraska. Austin, one of those teams that right now feels like they could win any game, but also feels like they could possibly lose any game. How has this team gotten to this point where, in spite of just a wrecking ball of injuries coming through that team, how are they at this point right now?
I think I'll go back to Logan's soundbite again. I think Iowa has typically been a team that prides itself on technique and fundamentals, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. They've been playing terrific football, putting the team in a great spot to win games, and really that's all that matters at the end of the fourth quarter is whether or not you have more points than the other team, and so far they have in 6 games.
Well, Iowa's already 2-0 in trophy games, the first time since 2017 that the Hawkeyes have won their first 2 trophy games in a year. 2015, a year that this gentleman remembers fondly, the last and only time Iowa's won all 4 trophy games since Nebraska joined the Big Ten. Well, this weekend is for all the proverbial bacon. Floyd of Rosedale dates back to 1935. 117th all-time meeting this weekend, the longest-running rivalry on Iowa's schedule. And this week, Cooper DeJean recalled one of his unpleasant memories from a trip north of the border.
A while back, it was up in. I went to a game up in Minnesota, and Iowa was getting the ball moved down their throat. I think they lost by a few touchdowns. It was kind of annoying up there, just to hear their fans. They got this saying. I think it goes like, "That's another golden gopher first down," and that's all I remember hearing. Every single drive when they were on offense up there.
This could have gotten awkward. Thankfully, Cooper was talking about the 2010 Minnesota game before our friend Austin Blythe was on the roster. Floyd has called Iowa City home for the past 8 years. The last time the Golden Gophers kept him in the Twin Cities was all the way back in 2014 when Minnesota beat the Hawks 51-14. Iowa's won 10 of their last 11 meetings with the Gophers. Austin, amazingly, the current streak of wins over Minnesota started your senior year in 2015. But from what you've seen, how do they match up this season?
I always think that the Hawks will match up great against anybody because we play great defense, our special teams are always good, and then offensively, if we're running the ball well like we are the last 2 weeks, I think we could play with anybody. So if we stick to what we've been doing the last couple weeks, I don't think we'll have any issues. But like you mentioned earlier, we can win every game on this schedule, and we can also find a way to lose. So as long as we continue to play team football, I don't think we'll have any problems.
And where does this rivalry, or did it, either as a player or a fan, where does it rank among the 4 trophy games? I mean, how badly do you always want this one?
You want all the trophy games, but aside from the Cy-Hawk Trophy, I think, and I'd probably put it down below the Wisconsin Trophy too,
really?
The Heartland, just because Wisconsin was a team that I always hated in college and continue to hate now. So it was great to get them, see them get the win last week, but. All trophy games are important, especially this one. This one dates back to, like you said, 1935, I think. So it's always important to get this one.
Well, it's felt like almost every week there's another season-ending injury to report, and that theme holds true again heading into the Minnesota game. Tight end Eric All confirmed out for the season after going down early against Wisconsin. Eric joined Iowa as a transfer this season, but his personality already has had a tremendous impact in the Hawkeye locker room.
Obviously tough seeing him go down, but you know, even on the sidelines, he still had a smile on his face. That just kind of speaks to who he is. He's kind of the glue guy in our room, always making everyone laugh, and he's just been awesome for the group, so it's just tough to lose a guy like that.
He's probably hurting a little, but I think he doesn't try and let anybody show it, or lets himself show it to anybody else. I think he's that guy that just wants to be there for the team and, you know, keep that momentum going.
Austin, you had a pretty healthy college career as a whole. A couple missed games as a freshman, I believe, but other than that, not much time on the sideline. What's this team saying to each other in the locker room right now as they just continue to get hit by the injury bug week in and week out, it seems?
I think you have to trust your coaches that they have the next man ready to go. And I think so far we've seen that with every running back that's come in, and now we get a chance to see the tight ends, what they are capable of. So really, it's about trusting the guys around you and trusting that the coaches have them ready to go.
Sure thing. Well, the next man in, again, is Steven Stilianos. He moved to tight end 2 after Luke Lachey went down. But now with Eric All out, Steven's #1 on the depth chart.
It's always next man up, so, you know, it's Eric's a great player who we've kind of relied on a lot this year, so not having him out there is going to be a little tough. So I'm ready to go, and just whatever we're going to game plan, I'm ready to execute that.
Steve's a very great guy. You know, you never have to ask him to do anything. He's already doing it. Does whatever he's asked. He's a great route runner. He's also a phenomenal blocker.
Last year was a transition year for him, and but in the spring you could see him operating. You know, like, this is a guy who can help us play and help us be successful, and you know, he's going to be called upon to do more now as we move forward.
You were a healthy guy in college, but did you have any other teammates, any other anecdotes that you might remember of somebody, you know, who went down and, you know, that other guy had to step in and really fill in well?
You know, I think it's just trusting that that guy has gone through the same program that you have. He's been coached by the same coaches that you have, and if his number is the one being called, you have to have confidence that your coaches know what they're doing, and confidence that he'll get the job done.
The Swarm just, to me, means just togetherness, and just we're going to go out there and fight for each other.
It's an Iowa tradition dating back over 40 years. After the break, we'll get Austin Blythe's memories of being within that Swarm and hear about what it means to the players and Coach Ferentz. That's next on Eye on the Hawks. Tradition started by Hayden Fry in 1979, hand in hand entering the field as a Swarm. You'll see before and after every Iowa football game, both home and away, and its historic impact isn't lost on this year's players, even though it's been around decades longer than they've even been alive.
The Swarm means so much to me because it's not only you and your brothers out there, it's everyone from the past too. So it's really bringing everyone together, which is something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. It's just being out there, just thinking like 20 years, you know, behind us, like those guys were doing the same exact thing that we're doing.
I think our entrance is one of a kind, just showing that we're together, you know, locking hands, you know, running on the field as a whole team. So I think ours is one of a kind.
You know, that was Coach Fry's baby all the way, and I thought it just made so much sense, and I know our opponents made fun of us. At least they did in the 70s or 80s. I don't know if they do anymore, but you know, just what it stood for, what it meant. You know, that was how he built the program here. So, you know, as long as I'm here, that's going to continue.
Austin Blythe back with us on Eye on the Hawks. Austin, you would have been part of, I think, at least 50 Swarms, not even including your redshirt freshman season. What did the Swarm mean to you back when you were a player, and does that change, or what does it mean to you now as an alum?
Yeah, I think you heard Joe say it really pretty good. You know, you're carrying the tradition and the legacy of the people who came before you, the people who are going to come after you. And I think what's the hardest thing about the Swarm is you get the music coming in before, and you think you're just going to sprint out on the field, but that's not how Coach Ferentz, you know, wants it. He wants us to jog on the field with a calmness, about the job we're going to go out and do together.
Still no official word on Noah Shannon's status for the season, but he is back at practice while the NCAA thinks about changing their sports wagering punishments. Seems like it's just a matter of time before Noah makes his 2023 debut for the Hawkeyes. Earlier this week, Mitch Fick spoke with defensive line coach Kelvin Bell about Noah's current status with the team.
Noah's back at practice, probably a week, maybe plus now. How's he looking football-wise, and more importantly, just how's his mood? The last couple months he's had where you know, he hasn't known what to expect, and now it looks like maybe the door's starting to open. How's he just doing with that news evolving?
Well, first, back in practice, he looks good. He hasn't missed a beat. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit of rest, but just in terms of pre-snap and pre-snap identification, things of that nature, he's fallen right back into it. Just his mindset. I mean, he's handled it. Noah's been upright, up forth about what's happened. He's not shied away from any type of blame. He knows his responsibility and what he did, and that part you admire. But just from the standpoint of he's been great for the young guys. He's been great for the old guys. Like having Noah Shannon around is really good for the older guys that are there and the young guys. And for me, just the chance to get him back to play. I'm happy for him to be able to get back to play whenever the NCAA decides what they're going to do.
No one likes to get hit over and over and over. So yeah, that's like the main point of our defense, just to keep my head in.
And Seb Castro's been doing a lot of that this season. After the break, we'll hear more from one of Iowa's most improved players and get a look ahead at what Minnesota brings to the table next on Eye on the Hawks. One of Iowa's biggest impact players this season has been Sebastian Castro. He's emerged as a terror in the secondary, making his presence known on every play. On Saturday against Wisconsin, he was second on the team in tackles, had the game-sealing interception. On his birthday, no less. Fans may have not known a lot about Sebastian prior to this season, but he has built a reputation as one of the most fast and physical players on the team.
Growing up as a kid, we always just played like that, so it came easy. It came easy like that, and it's something I enjoy. And especially nowadays, I know a lot of people don't like to be physical, and I'm always open to the challenge. So, yeah, it's just something a part of my game.
That was my high school teammate, so I don't expect nothing less from him. He real physical. It's fun watching him, especially being on offense. He make me sit up and watch the defense most of the time because I just know he's going to come lay a hit on somebody.
The way he flies to the ball, flies around and makes plays, I think it rubs off on everybody else.
Boy, he's physical and tough out there in the field. But now he's getting confidence. He's really starting to feel good about what he's doing.
Austin Blythe back with us on Eye on the Hawks. Austin, I assume you've been watching this team pretty closely this season since he moved back to Eastern Iowa. Who on this defense really impresses you the most? Is it Sebastian, or has somebody else really caught your eye?
I think there's a few guys. I think from the very first week, Jay Higgins has really jumped out at me. Guy who was always flying around. He's always around the ball, trying to make a play, picking his teammates up, congratulating them when they make a play. Then another guy that's got an insane motor, to me, is Joe Evans off the edge. I think part of the reason why he is so good is he just goes longer than anybody else. So watching those guys play has been a lot of fun, and then watching guys like Sebastian emerge and make plays when the defense has needed it, especially like this last weekend, it was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, Minnesota was meant to be a contender in the Big Ten West, but so far their only conference win was against Nebraska in the season opener. That's their only win of the season against any Power 5 school. Curtis Fader takes us inside a Gopher team who wants this win in a bad way.
Minnesota is a team that's had its ups and downs, but the Golden Gophers have an extra week to prepare for the Hawkeyes coming off a bye, and that extra time off is crucial for them to get freshman phenom Darius Taylor back on the field. Taylor is the highest rated running back in the Big Ten by Pro Football Focus, and you can see why. He averaged 176 yards rushing his last 3 games, along with scoring 4 touchdowns this season, but he did suffer a leg injury that's kept him out the last couple weeks. And now he's set to return and try and wreak havoc on the Hawkeyes. But this defense is used to facing talented Big Ten running backs and looks poised to do so again.
He's like top 3 in the Big Ten in rushing yards right now. So he's having a good year. That's something we have to focus on is stopping the run. It's Big Ten football. That's about what it is, week in and week out, stopping the run.
Second and 15. Iowa only threw the ball 14 times last week, but they could potentially have success this week in the air. These Golden Gophers are prone to getting picked apart, giving up an average of 36 points per game on 300 yards passing their last 4 games. Kirk Ferentz still holds Minnesota's defense in high regard when preparing his team for Saturday.
There's a lot of good defensive teams in our conference, and last several years Minnesota's added to that. They've been extremely tough to move the ball against and score against. They're coming off a bye. I'm sure they'll be well prepared, well rested. So, long story short, just like another tough challenge. It'd be great to be in Kinnick, certainly, but we're going to have to do our work on that one.
While Iowa's in the driver's seat now to win the Big Ten West, any slip up down the stretch can put that in jeopardy, and Minnesota's a program experienced in playing spoiler to favorite teams' plans, so Hawkeye fans should be optimistic, but definitely on high alert.
Well, after the break, we've got game picks, and we'll find out where you can find Austin on the sidelines on Friday nights. Still more Eye on the Hawks after the break. Back on Eye on the Hawks with Austin Blythe, former Hawkeye, former Ram, former Seahawk. Austin, thanks again for joining us this week. Before we get into game picks, we love having you back in Eastern Iowa. Now that you're not playing in the league anymore, what occupies your time these days?
Well, my kids and wife first and foremost, and that's one of the main reasons why I ended up choosing to retire. But other than that, you know, I've gotten into coaching some football this fall with my father-in-law, and my brother-in-law is on the staff as well. So that's been a lot of fun. Getting to coach, you know, the game that I obviously love. So it's been a lot of fun.
You got at least one future Hawkeye on that roster in Derek Weisskopf. How special of a player is he? How much are Hawkeye fans going to enjoy seeing him on that roster in a year or so?
Gosh, getting to coach Derek and just really watch Derek play football, it's just a lot of fun because he's a competitor. He wants to win, and if there's a way that he can do it and there's a way he can get it done, he's going to try and figure it out.
Well, let's now get into our Week 8 game picks. First, one of the biggest games in college football resides in the Big Ten. Big noon kickoff right here on Fox Saturday. Number 3, Ohio State, 4-point favorites hosting 7th-ranked Penn State, a team that really handed it to Iowa a few weeks ago. Austin, what do you think between these two?
You know, I think obviously they're both great teams. They're off to 6-0 starts, best you can be at this point in the season. But I think Ohio State's been starting too slow in games, and Penn State's just been, you know, obviously what they did to us, and then just beating teams that they should, 63-0. So I'm liking the Lions in this one.
I kind of do too. I think that this is a Penn State team that has CFP potential for sure, and I think that they'll beat Ohio State this weekend. Now to the Big Ten West, Wisconsin without Tanner Mordecai for the foreseeable future, still a 2.5-point favorite on the road against Illinois. If the Badgers drop another game, could get some serious friction atop the Big Ten West for the Hawkeyes. Who wins this game?
Again, you know, this is a tough game. You think about Wisconsin and what they're trying to be with that spread offense up there, but you know, hopefully they can fall back on what they've always been good at, is that ground game, the powers, the counters, and I think it'll be too much for Illinois.
Frankly, I'm a little surprised that that spread is as small as it is. I think that Wisconsin's a really good team. I think that Illinois has really played down to what their potential was this year. So I like Wisconsin maybe even win this game by, you know, 10, 15, 20 points possibly. Moving on to the battle for Floyd of Rosedale. Hawkeyes 3.5-point favorites at home against a Minnesota team they've won 8 straight games against. The Gophers coming off a bye week after getting destroyed by Michigan. Austin, have to imagine you're going to predict Iowa's going to win this game. Do you think it's going to be a comfortable win or another close one?
You know, I always think the Hawks are going to win comfortably. I don't know if that's just the player in me and the bias.
You're wrong so often, Austin.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't know. I think with the way that we've ran the ball the last few weeks, you know, hopefully it'll give Deacon Hill some pressure taken off of his shoulders, and he can hit throws when needed. But hopefully we can rely on that offensive line and that running game to get us a few scores and put this game away early.
Game could get interesting. Minnesota really wants this one bad. PJ Fleck wants this win so badly, but Iowa always plays so well at home against Minnesota, as we mentioned. I think they could get this one again by another, 5 to 7 points somewhere in there. Well, that does it for Week 8 of Eye on the Hawks. Scan the QR code on the screen to download, subscribe, and listen to the Eye on the Hawks podcast. We have a preview podcast up and also an extended version of the show you're watching right now. Ready for download. It's available wherever you get podcasts. Every week we're going to be doing a live stream on YouTube reacting to the Iowa game. This week we're back on Sunday at noon. Join the stream or send along your questions. You can follow along at Iowa's News Now on YouTube. We'll send out the link from our Eye on the Hawks Twitter account. We want to thank Austin Blythe again for joining us on Eye on the Hawks this week. Austin, good to have you back. Good to have you coaching on the sidelines. All right, thanks for joining this week. Enjoy the game this weekend.